All right, guys, welcome back. Glad to have you. As always, feel free to rate, review the show, send me your comments, what have you. If you love what we talk about, great. If there's something you want to debate or go back and forth or confess or whatever, shoot me a note. Glad to chat and talk with you. So this week, I've got a really cool guest, and she's written a really cool book called "Sincerely Stoneheart," and I guess you go by the name Emily Wilson.
Yes, Emily Wilson. My married name is Hussam, but it's a Dutch last name, and so it throws a lot of people off. Emily Wilson, you can't mispronounce it. So a lot of people just call me Emily Wilson.
Perfect. That sounds great. Well,
hmm
we're excited, super excited to have you here. We are talking just before we started recording about how your book is, and my oversimplification of it was the screw tape letters for women. And you're like, I'll take it. Like that,
hmm
that
It's
works. So
exactly what
guys,
it is.
I don't know if you've read screw tape letters or not. I'd heard about it for years and I never read it. One of my good buddies who's been on the podcast before is like, hey, you got to read that. I'm like, man, I don't really want to.
Totally get that.
I'm like, I've heard a little bit about it and I don't really want to. And he goes, you got to do it. And this was like right in the peak of COVID where everybody's
Mm.
isolated and you felt like everything was against you and all that. And for me, it felt like the perfect time after I read it. I'm like, oh, this was great. Where everybody's talking about the end of the world is tomorrow and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
as Christians, we all should know that other Christians telling us when they know the end of the world is isn't true.
True. Yes, indeed.
So, anyway, with all that, how did you come to write this book? And I guess besides writing this book, how in the heck were you able to dovetail into that screw tape letters type way of writing?
Yeah. So the cool thing about the screw tape letters, it's a very interesting way to look at things and look at what is true and what is not true and how does the enemy work. People have been doing screw tape letter sequels since the 50s. In 1952, the first one is recorded as being written, and there have been dozens and dozens of authors who have done this ever since. And the cool thing about every author who takes on the screw tape letters in the spirit of whatever they want to write, there's blog posts, screw tape letters for teachers, and different areas where the devil can really work against you, whether it's in, your specific profession or as a woman. So I've been doing ministry with women for 14 years, right? Walking with women on retreats, at conferences. I was a high school teacher for teenage girls at an all-girls school. And I really, over those 14 years, I saw that the enemy works on women in a very specific, calculated way. And so it was during the pandemic too for me. I started to think about all these things because you just feel evil at work, right? You just feel it. I was pregnant here at home with my second baby, and it just felt like wow. And it gave me a lot of time for self-reflection, and reflection on what I had experienced with women, and heard from women for those many years. So I really started to reflect on that and started writing them kind of as a self-portrait of my own heart and the way that the enemy has worked on me, but it really became kind of the most oddly crafted memoir you could ever think of writing because it's a memoir of everything that I've heard from women and specific ways that the enemy tries to destroy mothers, right? In their motherhood. How does the enemy work against mothers? How does the enemy work against just women in general in friendships, right? Looking at like, okay, what have I heard from women about their struggles in friendship over the years? How has the enemy been at work there? So a whole letter on friendship. So really it is Sincerely Stoneheart. The demon is named Stoneheart. And I got that because I've seen the enemy, his work and subtle calculated efforts to destroy women have really been to make like to have a world full of women with hearts made out of stone. The God's design for a woman's heart is to be tender and beautiful. And tender is not weak, right? The world will say, "Oh, tender, like how weak?" No, tender is like has a beautiful strength to it. But Stoneheart, the enemy wants women to be hard-hearted and angry, and cold, because of their own experiences. He wants them to be that way to other people. And so I wrote many letters. There are 42 about women's experiences. And I think men, and it's cool that so many men are listening to you, men can really understand. Not there's things that men can glean for sure from this book, but any man who reads this will understand women in a whole new way.
Yes, yes. Like we've had a few authors on, a few books that we've talked about, and I'm like, I love it when women bring that perspective
Mhm.
so that guys can hear it in a different way and kind of put themselves in their wife's shoes for a little bit. Like if you can
Totally.
just immerse yourself into thinking that way. And for me, it's kind of hard to get there.
Hmm.
But
It's,
when
well,
yeah,
absolutely. It can be hard. Like, okay, how do I put myself in her shoes? You know, how do I kind of understand what she struggles with, right? And so, in the letters on motherhood, right? If there are dads out there who want to understand their wives', struggles as a mother, one of the biggest struggles I found as a mom is the enemy saying, "This is all a burden. Everything that you're doing is all a burden." And the enemy wants mothers to be sour and feel like, oh my gosh, the victim mentality, right? Like the enemy wants women to feel like I'm a victim of my circumstances. I am a victim of how hard it is, right? To be up in the night with a baby and cook a dinner and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And all the responsibilities any mother out there may have. The enemy wants them to think like this is a burden and I'm a victim rather than this is hard, but a blessing and a joy from the Lord. And I am not a victim to this, right? Like this is God's call for my life. I really unpacked, right? Unpacking it in this way, in this way that C.S. Lewis did. When you see the lies so clearly written out, the truth just comes into view, right? It's like this kind of like a blurry picture and it comes into focus like, oh my gosh, that's a lie. I believe this lie. Okay, what is the truth? The truth is, this isn't a burden. This is hard, but a joy and an honor to do this. And it really comes into focus. So, any man who would read, right, like these letters on motherhood, your ability to put yourself in your wife's shoes, I think will grow ever more deeply to say, oh, these are the lies that the enemy says to her each day, right? And every woman will find herself in this book in a different way. I tell the women, some letters are going to apply to you, they're going to hit hard. And then some letters won't apply to you at all, right? But you'll be able to glean, like, to see maybe what your sisters struggle with or your mom struggles with, right? To have more of a compassion for the way the enemy works on women in general. And that's what my hope, right? Is that in writing it this way, there will be a greater sense of compassion for whoever reads it for the struggles of the people around them, whether that's their wife or their sister or whoever it might be.
yeah, that's great. You mentioned like friendships,
Hmm.
and it got me thinking about a number of different things. So I've got daughters for one,
How many
and
daughters do you have?
I've got two, so
Sweet.
11 and 12-year-old daughters. And it's like in guy world, guy friendships are pretty simple.
Hmm. Hmm.
This, that, the other. I'm mad at you, I'll tell you, or I'll just be away from you, or
Yeah.
we'll fist fight, not as real adults anymore, but maybe.
Yeah, right.
And then we're done with it. And then we're on to the next thing, whatever the next thing is. Women's relationships are altogether entirely different. And I'm like, these kind of devil lies, I see them all the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I witness what women witness, and then I hear them interpret it. I'm like, that's not at all what happened.
It's true.
That
Oh my
woman was
gosh.
hungry, so she ate the thing that like, and
Right?
I'm like,
It,
where are they coming up with these 500 different versions of the same story? Like, there was not ill intent. She wasn't trying to get after. Like,
oh,
it,
yeah.
all this that's going on isn't like in
Totally.
guy world. Like, hey man, did you see him eat my bagel?
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't know. He thought
Yeah.
that was when the waiter said it down. He thought that was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
all
okay.
right, no big deal.
Nothing personal.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The complexity of the female heart really struggles to not take things personally, right? And you're in the thick of it with an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old girl because girls are just, coming into the preteen years, teenage years, and they're trying to figure out who they are, right? And how they fit into the picture of the world. And that's so challenging. And I do rewind back to girlhood, right? In the book and the ways that the enemy works on little girls, like, in friendship, right? One of the biggest lies that the enemy will teach young women is that everybody belongs except you. that friendship comes easy for everybody except you. And
Mm.
so that lie, when you hear that when you're a young girl and you feel like, you're insecure and you're trying to fit in, and you don't really know where you fit in yet, the enemy says that, like that foundational lie of you don't belong. Other women belong, you don't, and you have to work for your belonging, right? I talk about this letter is called Unfavorable Hoops, jumping through unfavorable hoops, because when I was a young girl in the schoolyard, there was a group of popular girls, right? And they said in order to become one of the popular girls, to be in the group, you have to eat sand. You have to eat a scoop of sand on the play yard. And so like this
Ooh.
process of me discerning as a young girl, okay, am I going to eat the sand and be part of this group, or am I going to not do that? And that lie that the enemy tells young girls is that like it comes easy for other girls, but it's hard for you. And then that really brings a sense of discouragement into friendships as a young woman your whole life. You're just like, it's easy for everybody except for me. I have to work for it, right? And that is so difficult, right? And then another lie, right? That the enemy tells girls as young as your daughters is that the most important thing about you is your exterior. And if your exterior is not up to standards, you are not enough. And so little girls receive that messaging when they're far too young, right? Far too young for all the messaging our young children are receiving in this day and age, unless we're vigilant and careful. Um, and then a young woman thinks, my greatest contribution to the world is being beautiful in the exterior, right? So this movement, right, for young women to teach them, no, no, that's a lie from the enemy. That the most important thing about you is how you look. The truth is that there are fabulous, spectacular gifts within your heart and within your soul that God is going to call you to share with the world. And the most important thing you can do as a woman is cultivate virtues in your heart and strive to be as close to God as possible, right? And like flipping the script on that, I think is so important. And that's why I wrote a letter in the book on that, about the exterior of a woman and how you're taught so young, like this is who I am. I am how I look. And so, those I'm hopeful that dads like you or moms who have daughters can really see the lies and the ways the messaging from the enemy is given to us far too early on, and help their young daughters to live in the truth, right? To when you're having those conversations with your daughters about friendship, to say the enemy wants you to believe, right, that you don't belong, right? That is a lie from the enemy. What does God say? You do belong, and we're going to help you find the young women that you belong with who want to be friends with you. So I'm hopeful that writing in this way will also help parents combat, if they have young daughters, as they grow up, those lies that the enemy wants to speak to their daughters all day long.
I love that you kind of shared because that was going to be one of my questions is, what message can we tell our daughters or should we be telling our daughters so that as they enter into all these different things that are going to come their way, you know, how do we impart that in like beauty is something important intrinsically to women just
Right,
before the outside forces come in, like that's
for
just
sure.
born into who women are.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And it's like how do we balance that?
It's so true. It's so true because it's not a bad thing to want to feel good about your appearance, right? And you have to make every disclaimer under the sun in this day and age to say, I'm not saying, don't brush your teeth. And if you want to wear a dress, it's a bad thing. To help our daughters understand the holistic nature of the person, right? That we are body and soul together is so important. The core of who you are is your heart and your soul as a young woman, and really helping them to see like it's good to want to feel good about yourself. It's good to want to feel beautiful. Truth, beauty, and goodness are three of the most important things, right? In our lives and the pursuit of those things. But to really shift the focus as early on to the heart of femininity, right? And that's the cultural messaging, is that you are feminine when you dress up in a dress, or you are feminine when you wear makeup or whatever, which is not true, right? Femininity is intrinsically in the makeup of a heart of a woman, right? It's not, I'm more feminine because I wear dresses. Femininity, I tell young women in many different women's sessions all over the world, right? Femininity comes in all shapes and sizes, and femininity is as unique as our fingerprints, right? The way God is going to call you to live out your womanhood for these young girls and these young women looks different for everybody, right? And some of you, I think some of them get discouraged. They're like, I don't want to wear dresses and I don't care and I'm not that emotional. I say, you're no less feminine, right, than the girl who does, because your femininity, right, has to do with your chromosomes and is the way that you can live out your heart for the world. And teaching these young girls that their ability to nurture and to love, right? Not as a weak thing as the world portrays it. Oh, to be nurturing is to be weak. It's not true at all, right? Have you ever seen a woman care for a baby or give birth? Right? That's nurturing there and it's incredibly strong. But to help them to see that your nurturing heart, the way that a young woman, a woman in general, has a specific way that she cares for people and cares for the world, there's so much power there. And there's so much beauty there that has nothing to do with the physical, right? So helping them merge both to say, whether you want to wear fancy dresses or you want to wear jeans and a t-shirt, right? You can be feminine either way because your femininity comes from your heart. In the same way that I try to teach my young sons, right, that their masculinity isn't about their size, right? So many times people are like telling my sons to eat, oh, you got to get big, you got to get big, right? And I realized because I've met men of all different sizes and I've met men of smaller stature who say, I have felt like less of a man my whole life because I'm 5'1", right? And I've just felt like my masculinity just wasn't there in the same way that a man can be masculine when he's 6 feet tall. And I'm like, your masculinity flows from your heart, your ability to protect, provide, not just financially, right? Provide in all different kinds of ways that a masculine heart can provide. It has nothing to do with your size. And so teaching young women, right, the balance of, yes, you can care about the exterior, but really who you are and who God's going to call you to be to share with the world is inside. It's inside your heart. And that's why it's important to grow in virtue and to take care of your heart, and to learn what are my gifts and how can I share them with the world as a young woman in the world today.
What are some of the top plays that the enemy uses and would teach his minions to do their bidding? When they what do you see that they use that he uses for women?
Yeah. So I believe that there's a unique, a beautiful. I was on a retreat a long time ago with a wonderful sister named Sister Faustina. She's a Carmelite sister, a Catholic sister, and she said on the retreat to all the women, she said, "You reflect a piece of God's glory no one else ever will." And I think that's true for all people. It is true for all people, as unique as our fingerprints. But I think there's a specific light that women bring to the world, right? And I think the men out there would probably agree that women bring a lot of beauty and light and vivacity and, all those beautiful things to the world. And I think the devil's work in overarching in the hearts of women is to try to reduce that light as much as possible, because the glory of God is alive in the light that women bring. And so one of the biggest lies that the enemy says to women is either that you are too much or that
Mm.
you are not enough. So you have to try to meet somewhere in the middle. You either have to scale it back and tone it down, or you have to boost it up and in desperation for acceptance or for being enough, you have to grasp, right? And it all goes back to the question of the topic of identity, right? Who am I as a woman? I'm the beloved, right? And when I'm secure in that place, I live from that place. And so I live that light and that glory that God has called me to live out. But when women spend their lives from girlhood all the way through, until we're even in our 70s, I talk to women about this, 80s, 90s. I speak to women of all ages at women's conferences. You spend your whole life trying to just find the middle of not being too much, of not being not enough. You try to find the middle. And I think it really has made a world full of watered down women who are just so afraid. They're fearful and in living that way, oh, I'm not enough, so I have to grasp. They grasp out of that fear, or they fear they're too much, whether it's their laugh, whatever it is, right? There's, a little girl laughs when she's 12 and a little boy says like, "Oh, you sound like a dying cow," right? And then she never laughs really ever again her whole life. And I meet these 35-year-old women who are like someone, right? Whether it's a little boy or a little girl or whoever, says someone said something to them when they were young, right? That the messaging was, you, all that you are, is too much. I'll cry talking about it. So you have to tone it down. You have to scale back. And I'm not talking about toning it down because like you're brash or anything like that. I'm just talking about toning down your personality, your heart, your emotions, right? Your care for the world. Like you just have to scale it back altogether. So we just have a world often, not all of them, many of them that I've met over these 14 years, just trying to walk the fine line in the middle rather than asking God, who am I and how can I live that in the most authentic, free way? Who did you create me to be? What gifts did you give me to share? And how can I do that with boldness and bravery? That's when I think the world is most beautiful, is when women are living out that light from a free, peaceful, authentic, glorious, confident place.
It's funny as I just observe the world in general. And as you're describing that carefree way, that authentic
Yeah.
way, that when you see women living that way, like you recognize, like I go, wow, this, like she's confident. She's um, also uncaring. Like, have
Mhm.
your opinion, and I'm in my lane, and I'm good. Like like it's amazing.
It's incredible. There's a lot of different ways you can frame it. I think women like that are unbothered. I call them unbothered because they're
Unbothered. That's a good
so
word.
surrendered to the Lord. And another way is to say she's a woman like at rest internally and not resting like, oh, I'm going to rest. I'm going to take a nap. She knows who her anchor is in Jesus, right? And everything flows from that place, right? I am at rest, right? And I try to be that because I meet women like that and I'm like, oh my gosh, she is so at rest in the Lord's heart, in who she is, in who God made her to be, in what the future holds, right? That's a whole other thing. You're a woman at rest because you're like,
Yes.
hey, whatever the future holds, God's got it in his hands and I don't have to worry about it, right? The Lord says in scripture, what do you add by worrying, right? To your life? What value, what benefit is there in worrying? So when you meet those women, it's so true. At rest, unbothered, surrendered to God, it is so inspiring and it gives other people permission, other women, men, to be the same. And that's like one of my goals in life is to be a woman like that, who really, helps other people see to live authentically and in freedom is the most beautiful way to live, to be an unbothered woman at rest. My gosh, it's an amazing goal. It's an amazing goal that I work toward every single day.
So as you talk about just those various things, I'm like, well, in guy world, yeah, we also feel like we're not enough, we're not worthy, we're not,
Mhm.
or gosh, I'm bothering people, I'm too much, I'm, dominating the conversation or whatever it is. It's like
Yeah.
we still think about that as well, or um, not knowing where we're anchored, like causing us to worry and we're bothered, and like the worry thing's big, big, big in guy world for
Huge.
sure. And so it's like
Well,
we look at women and men and we're all different. It's like, well, we got a lot of the same stuff. We just think about it and process it in a different way.
totally. The devil is not original. He is not like cooking up original ideas about how to, deceive people. He's still deceiving people the same way he deceived Eve, right? To say God is withholding something good from you and you should go out and get it for yourself, right? What would you say is the biggest, I know this is a big question, the biggest lie that dads believe about their fatherhood? Or maybe the
Mm.
messaging, like the biggest lie that you believe in vulnerability, in a spirit of vulnerability, about your fatherhood.
Yeah, so I guess in general, the biggest one would be that guys aren't good dads, that
Mm,
guys don't have what it takes. I guess in life in general, we don't have what we always want to figure out if we have what it takes. Like that's important
yeah,
to guys.
for sure.
And so as a dad, maybe we're not good at playing with dolls, or maybe like we don't know how to get on the ground and play with the kids.
Hmm.
So we just feel like you know, we're if we can't do it well, then we'll just be over off to the side and watch and observe things happen, and we'll protect,
Yeah.
make sure nothing bad happens.
Yeah.
But we're not going to be engaged and involved. We'll check out on our phones or just allow things to happen, allow our wives to just run the household with their stone heart.
Totally. Totally.
And we can't really affect it. We'll just go out and make some money and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, let everything else just happen. Like
Yeah.
if we can't claim victory, then we'll just allow things to be
Right, to
whatever
passively
that is.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. I definitely see that at play in the culture for sure. And the cultural messaging to dads is, yeah, you're not a good dad. So, you can either just lay down in defeat or like operate out of the truth, which is God has called you to this. You're not going to necessarily know how to do everything, right? And we're all learning as parents, right? We're learning every single day as our children grow. But I so see that lie at work, definitely in the culture today.
In the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, there's a word he uses in there called drift. And I'm
Okay.
like, that's it. Like guys that allow things to happen. Like you just drift through life and eventually you get wherever you
Mm,
get. It's like, no, let's set a direction. Let's realize we can affect change. We are affecting change, whether we're active or passive,
yeah.
and we're drifting. Like we, we, so from a woman perspective,
Mhm.
wife perspective,
Yeah.
what do you want guys to do? What do you want a husband to do?
That's a really good question. I mean, there's so many different kinds of, like I said, femininity comes in all shapes and sizes. So there's so many different things that wives want their husbands to do based on who they are and based on how they operate. I think that really at a foundational level, when you look at marriage, a woman wants a man to really care about what's going on in her heart. And that can seem a little bit simple, but I think sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. To do, right? It sounds like it's a active thing, like, oh, I want you to do the dishes or I want you to do something. The most romantic thing my husband is doing for me right now, he's in the T-ball group chat and he said, you don't have to be in the group chat because it's very noisy and messy. He says, I'll look at the messages, I'll take care of being in this group chat, I'll have my phone dinging all day and you just be out of it. You just be at peace and take care of all your other things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so romantic. I feel so loved, right? But I think caring for the heart of a woman goes a really long way. And I think a lot of women who have hearts made of stone think that, oh, I don't want anybody to care about my heart, or my husband will ask the wrong questions, or it just annoys me when he, does this, that, or whatever. I think at a foundational level, if a man says to a woman, hey, tell me what's going on in your heart, it's a very powerful, disarming thing for a
Mm,
woman. Because there's a lot going on in there. There's a lot, whether women want to admit it or not, depending on the different levels of emotional nature that we have, we want someone to care about what's going on in our heart. And I think that's a very simple, powerful tool that men can use. Women just want to feel seen and heard and known. And, there's silent, like if you don't ask a woman, sometimes you won't know. Most of the time you won't know. We think, oh, he just should know what's going on in my life. No, that question is very powerful.
absolutely, it is. I can't tell you how important it is to try to bring that up in conversation.
Mhm.
I might save that one for later. Um,
Yeah, do so. Write it down. Write it in your notes, men
well,
out there.
I have it in my notes, and I will use it later for sure.
Good.
Is there anything else you can think of that we should share with the guys that are listening?
I mean, the thing that I want people to know is that the Lord, all of you listening out there, He wants you to live in freedom and truth and hope. And so recognizing, right, the voice of God, some people are like, "Ah, I don't know how to hear the voice of God." And so I started to make a very small prayer every day. Really into simple prayers. Jesus, teach me the sound of your voice, right? He says, I am the good shepherd. My sheep hear my voice. If you're struggling to hear God, if you're struggling to hear the truth, if you feel weighed down by all the lies of the enemy, you're not a good dad and you're messing it up and all those things, the voice, that is never gentle, and it's never beautiful, and it's never lacking in intensity and pressure, right? That voice, say, Jesus, teach me the sound of your voice, and he will. He's so faithful, and he will teach you what it sounds like to hear him say, you're a good dad. You're doing your best. You don't have to know how to do all this. You're learning. You're learning as you go. That voice of gentleness that will speak to you every single day. Ask him to teach you better what it sounds like. And your life, my life, changed when I started doing that.
I love that. And it makes me think about something that's in your book, the noise.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure, cutting through the noise and the noise of God. Like the enemy wants your life to be so noisy that you can't hear God. So when you really distill everything out and look at in your life, kind of the ways that you can eliminate the noise and reduce the noise, you'll hear God's voice so much more clearly. People who log off social media forever, they're like, I've never heard God more clearly in the last, 10 years because I'm not constantly consuming noise all day. So see how you can reduce the noise in your life actively so you can hear God better, so you can live in the freedom that He wants for you.
Mm, the noise thing. Once I read that, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when have we ever had more noise in our lives? So, those of us that aren't 20 years old that have lived with this noise all your life, but those of
Mm-hmm.
us that are older can remember, like, there was a time where you drive down the road and, you know, the music wasn't on.
Totally.
There wasn't, constant dinging of your phone or,
Mm-hmm.
I turned all my notifications off so I don't hear them. Like there's
Yeah.
not that distraction, but the noise thing is huge. So
It's
guys, that one's a great challenge right there. How can you reduce the noise in your own personal life, but then also how can you reduce the noise in your family's life?
Yes. Yes. That's in letter one. So letter one is about the distraction and the noise of the world. It's my husband's favorite letter. He read the whole book and I said, "What was your favorite letter?" He said, "Letter number one." So I talk about the noise and how a lot of the noise is silent because it's what we're taking in with our eyes, and how the noise, right? We all went to concerts that were way too loud when we were young, when we were teenagers in college age, and your ears hurt for like days after. Your ears
Yes,
hurt when
yes, I
you're
remember
there.
that when I was
And
young.
yeah, and
It
you
was
have
every
to wear,
weekend. Wednesday, you'd
yes,
start to be able to hear again.
exactly. And you have to wear earplugs and it hurts. And the enemy has so slyly calculated the noise to be mostly silent because it's articles that we're reading and videos that we're watching with no sound. We're just reading the captions and we're reading about the news and we're reading all these different things in this black abyss of information, and how that clutters up our minds, right? Even though it's silent. There's a line in my book that I wrote, when most of the noise is silent, they won't realize how, sorry, when most of the noise is silent, they won't realize how deafening it truly is. And so that was calculated so subtly by the enemy to say, like, oh, like I'm not like listening to too much, even though we do listen to a lot of things. Um, it's just cluttering our minds. And it takes a very specific effort to try to reduce that in our lives so that we can live it at peace and at rest.
And one of the things the devil does is he takes something that's true and then adds something to it or slightly shifts
Hmm.
it or
Hmm.
runs it through a lens. The Bible says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Go
Yeah.
get them.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah, it does
sure.
say that. You're right.
For
Let me go
sure.
get them.
Yeah.
Well, that's not actually the truth.
Yeah, it's very true to twist the words of God. Yeah, for sure. There's a very common tactic of the enemy.
Yeah. So, one of the great things as a guy reading this book that's intended for women is to help you filter these things. And there's
Hmm.
so many things that relate in guy world too, where you're like, oh, yeah. And then helping you understand your wife, helping you understand your daughters as well,
Hmm.
and just opening
Oh
your eyes
yeah.
to their world and what they're getting bombarded with. And you can discover things that you can help speak into their life.
For
Uh,
sure.
I use
Absolutely.
I use things like affirmations, like God loves me. Like that
Hmm.
one's a simple one.
Yeah.
Small little prayers, if
Yeah.
you will, if you don't want to call them affirmations or Navy SEALs call them power statements. But
Uh-huh.
these little things of truth that you can hang on to so that when something comes in that goes to knock you off track, you're like, nah, that's not it. I'm over here.
Absolutely.
You mentioned
Hmm.
anchor was the word you used. Yeah, know where your
Yes.
anchors are, know where your faith is, know who your father is. And if you got so much noise in your life and don't have prayer and silence, you won't be able to hear them. So
Absolutely.
if that's you, Jesus, teach me the sound of your voice. Like
Hmm.
How simple is that? That could be a little mantra or affirmation or a power statement or small prayer that you can say all the time to help you get tuned in.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Normally, I ask the guest, well, before I jump to that, how can people connect with you? How would you like for, you know,
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
So the book is called Sincerely Stoneheart: Unmask the Enemy's Lies, Find the Truth That Sets You Free. So it's available everywhere books are sold. And you can also do an audiobook if you're someone who has a commute, you want to listen. I read the whole entire book, and you can find out more about my ministry at emilywilsonministries.com. For those of you who have, young daughters out there, I have a YouTube channel for women, for young women, women of all ages. And I would love to, connect with you, to have you read the book, to, help you understand women more, but even understand the lies in your own life. A lot of these lies cross over. So I would love for you to, to dive in and really see the truth and the freedom that God wants for you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I asked the guest to throw a challenge out for guys so we can do something in between podcast episodes. Could be something smaller, could be something bigger and harder to do, but something that'll help us become better, whether that be as a dad, as a husband, as a man,
Yeah.
grow
I'm
closer to
gonna
God, any of those things, any topic that'll help level us up.
I'm gonna do the challenge that I just shared with you, whether it's your wife or your daughter, to find a time to say to her, "Hey, tell me what's going on in your heart." And just let her share. She might be really caught off guard if you've never said anything like that before, but you can point back to this wonderful podcast and say, well, they said it's a great question to ask, women of all ages. And so I'm trying to work on, getting to know you better and love you better. So whether it's wife, daughter, maybe it's even your mom. Hey, tell me what's going on in your heart and see what happens.
Mm, that's fantastic. And I like it. They added, if your mom's around still, ask your mom that
Right.
too.
Ask your mom. If my son was 35 and asked me what's going on in your heart, I'll cry just thinking about it. A mother, right, really wants to, no matter where her son is, to be seen by her son and to know that her son cares about her heart is a massively powerful thing.
Well, if you didn't issue that challenge that way, I was going to add that and double challenge on this podcast. So
Amazing.
that I love, love, love that challenge. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Check out Sincerely Stoneheart for yourself. And then also, if you can tune your wife into it and tune her into Emily's YouTube and
Mhm.
her website and all that type of thing, that would be great. I truly believe that Emily's insight can help your wife grow in her walk and also help you grow in your marriage and help her be a better mother and all those things. So it'll help her and you more recognize these lies so you can move forward more boldly with more freedom, have rest, and be unbothered by the world.
Amen. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was truly a blessing to have you with us. Delightful. And I wasn't sure what this one was going to turn out to, but you were fantastic.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you, Emily.